어느 깊은 가을밤 잠에서 깨어난 제자가 울고 있었다. 그 모습을 본 스승이 기이하게 여겨 제자에게 물었다. 무서운 꿈을 꾸었느냐? 아닙니다. 슬픈 꿈을 꾸었느냐? 아닙니다. 달콤한 꿈을 꾸었습니다. 그런데 왜 그리 슬피 우느냐? 제자는 흐르는 눈물을 닦아내며 나지막히 말했다. 그 꿈은 이루어질 수 없기 때문입니다.
백 번 잘하다가 한 번 실수하면 그 한 번 실수 때문에 바로 쫑날 수 있는 것이야. 우리 그만 볼래?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast, Heroic Purgatory, an Asian cinema podcast. My name is John, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jason. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, John. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Can't complain. Today, we'll be talking about, we'll be shifting gears towards South Korea, and we'll be talking about Kim Jee-woon's 2005 film, A Bittersweet Life. But before we get to that, first, we'll catch up with our lives. What have you been doing since last we talked, Jason?
Well, I've started reading Bonfire of the Vanities again, and I've got to the inciting incident, the thing that causes all the drama. And the book is definitely picking up now. So I think I should find it a lot more easier to get into, because it's becoming much more compelling.
So what made you give it another go?
It's regarded as a classic of American literature, so obviously there's that aura around it, and I want to be able to say I've read it. It would make for a good dinner party conversation.
I have the same thing. I have a hard time not finishing a book that I've started, no matter how badly I disliked. Not always, but I mean, I've gotten better at it recently. I sort of, a couple of years ago, I was part of a book club briefly, and they're the ones that sort of instilled the point that, you know, if a book is bad, you don't have to finish it, and they were pretty adamant about that philosophy, and that sort of kind of gotten me lately into, you know, I don't have to finish everything that I start reading. No matter how bad I disliked it, but I used to be that I just would not be able to put something down, maybe because of spite. Like I finished the first two books of Marcel Proust's I forget the name of the book series that he's written.
Is it like Time Regained or something?
Yeah, In Search of Lost Time. Yeah. So I started the first book. I mean, they're of course considered masterpieces of world literature, but they're also the most boring books maybe that have ever been written. It's almost entirely lyrical. There is hardly any plot to them. Well, there is a plot, but so I started the first book. I struggled to finish it, and then I started the second book. It was even harder, but I just forced through it. And the same thing with Moby Dick. Moby Dick was another chore that I just felt that I had to finish it because, you know, it was just, I started it. But anyway, keep going with your weeklies.
Yeah. In terms of films, what did I watch? I watched a Japanese short film called Idol by Ryushin Lindsay, and he's an Anglo-Japanese filmmaker who's based in the UK and Japan, and he has a political slant to his works. So even if it seems to be ostensibly a safe subject such as baseball, he'll find some underlying darkness to it, such as, well, again, with baseball, Kokutai, his debut film. It's a 10-minute experimental short, black and white, and it shows the ceremonies surrounding baseball in high schools across Japan, and it has some echoes to fascistic events in the past, and it's shot in black and white to really emphasize that link. And Idol, his latest one, is about the world of pop idols, specifically child idols, and instead of the glitz and glamour of that world, it looks at it has a dark story where a single mother who's driven by financial desperation takes a really makes a really bad decision as she tries to get her daughter into the lineup of an idol group. What else have I watched? Oh yeah, we've had the Music Lab Festival showing Japanese films for free on the internet, and throughout all of September they've got 10 short films on their website, so japanesefilmfest.org, and these were made in the last 2 years, and they're still getting releases in mini theaters across Japan. The one I watched today is called My Lovely Days, which is a love letter to the Heisei era, like late 80s throughout the 90s, as two characters reminisce about pop culture of that time period. And if you're in your 30s and you're into Japanese culture, you'll recognize a lot of references.
Is that still going on?
It's still going on up until the end of September, so maybe we could tweet about it so people can see these films. 10 films, short films, and they're all free to watch.
Oh, that's great. And is it region restricted?
I think the only region that cannot access these films is Japan. All
right, so this has been a sort of another slow couple of weeks for me. A lot of my choices were sort of influenced by our last discussion, because we mentioned video games last time. So I don't know why I decided to maybe give a couple a go. So I restarted my play on Final Fantasy VII.
The PlayStation or PlayStation 4 release?
Actually, I'm playing it on the Switch.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But I only played it for like a few hours, and then I put it down. I've been playing Mass Effect instead. I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And again, when I'm saying I'm playing, it's an hour a day, if at all. As far as science fiction goes, it plays on a lot of essentially very, very traditional and stereotypical tropes of science fiction. I'm not seeing anything new, but it's still a very fun, very interesting story. The world building is I like it a lot. It's like all those well-known RPGs that have a ton of lore that you can explore optionally, that build up to the world if you're that kind of person, and I really enjoy that.
I've played the second one, but not the first one or the rest of the quadrilogy.
Yeah, the gameplay is a little bit clunky. Like it's a nightmare to deal with the inventory system. Like you have to like there's an item limit, and you have to remove items one by one. At least I haven't there's no way to I have to get rid of items periodically because my inventory gets filled all the time, and removing items is like an extremely tedious process where you have to click them one by one and then confirm a yes on the screen and then do it another one. It's just it's
don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. I also started watching the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's an American TV comedy.
Yeah.
I'm generally not a big fan of police procedurals, but it's a comedy, so it's pretty fun.
Andy Samberg from SNL.
Yeah, pretty much. It's by the same people who made The American Office and Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
Yeah, and and you can tell like there's a lot of the same actors recycled in secondary roles and the same style of humor, more or less, the same tropes.
There's one actor in it, Andre Brower, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was in Homicide Life in the Streets.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of episodes of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a real dark police procedural.
Exactly, yeah. And he's maybe the best character and actor in the show. He plays like a real straight man, essentially. And I didn't get a chance to watch them, but last time we also talked about Anne Hui. And I lined up a couple of her films on Amazon Prime, and I think I'm maybe gonna try to watch one of them tonight or sometime before this weekend ends. I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I got caught up in some work. It's funny when I approached you with the show, I did it because I had a lot of free time and I said I should use the free time to do something. But as soon as we started, then all of a sudden my work just spiked up. So I don't have as much time as I would like to, as opposed to when I had before. But I think it's temporary. It's probably going to go down soon. So I'm hoping I'll go back to watching more films. But I'm definitely going to try to do at least one An Hui movie before this weekend ends, or Monday at the latest.
That's a good segue to the news announcements, actually.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, because she won the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievements at the Venice Film Festival. And she also had her latest film, Love After Love, playing at the festival.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great news for her.
John Berra, who's the editor and one of the writers at V Cinema, he's got a great review over at Screen Daily, and he highlights the mise en scène, the costumes, everything, but he finds the performances, it sounds like they're a little underwhelming.
Do you know who won the Golden Lion? Because I was planning to look it up and then I forgot.
Chloe Zhao's US drama Nomadland.
Oh, I know her. I guess she's properly themed for a podcast. She's an Asian American filmmaker, and she got some attention with her first film. But the one that I've seen from her is Rider, the film that she did before this, and it's a very, very interesting drama about a rodeo. I think it was called Rider. Let me double check the film. The Rider, yes, a couple of years ago or 3 years ago. And it's a very quiet drama about rodeos in the rural United States who a rodeo family, one of the members of which suffered severe brain damage from falling off a horse, but then has to get back because they have no other means of income. And they use actually the real family that went through this as actors in the film. In that and it shows, like, the acting is not great, but it's the film is nevertheless really good, and I recommend it. So I'll definitely be checking this out when there's a chance to see it. Probably not in theaters, but as soon as it comes to home video.
Yeah, and as previously mentioned, Kiyoshi Kurosawa won the Silver Lion for Wife of a Spy.
And you've seen that one, right?
I've not seen it. No, I've seen most of Kurosawa's works. Well, apart from his V Cinema days, and I've just been reading reviews of it, and it sounds like the highlight is Yu Aoi's performance and the script by Ryosuke Hamaguchi and Tadashi Nohara, who so Kiyoshi Kurosawa teaches at Geidai, Tokyo University of the Arts, graduate school, filmmaking, and Ryosuke Hamaguchi and Tadashi Nohara are both former students of his. So they wrote the script for this television film, which was aired on NHK earlier this year. And the script is one of the highlights, particularly its focus on Yu Aoi's character.
Right, yeah, I'm looking forward to, like I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, I want to check out more Kiyoshi Kurosawa films, and this would be probably a nice one to do so. Yeah,
you prefer drama more than horror, don't you?
Well, yeah. Well, anything other than horror. Horror is just a genre that I'm not particularly fond of, but it's not. I try not to dismiss it.
It would be worth you checking out License to Live. if you haven't seen it already. It's got Hidetoshi Nishijima, Koji Yakusho, and it's about a teenager who falls into a coma and he wakes up 10 years later. He still has the mind of a teenager, but his family is broken up, and he tries to reunite them with the help of Koji Yakusho. And it's really heartbreaking at the end.
All right. So I guess we can, unless you have any other piece of news that you'd like to share.
No.
Okay, so we'll transition to the film of the episode, and that is again Bittersweet Life, a South Korean film released in 2005, written and directed by Kim Jee-woon. It was the fourth film from Kim Jee-woon, I believe. So his first was The Quiet Family, The Foul King,
A Tale of Two Sisters.
I'm trying to remember if he made anything between A Foul King and A Tale of Two Sisters. I don't know, maybe not. But then after A Tale of Two Sisters, he certainly made A Bittersweet Life. And that started a three-film collaboration with Lee Byung-hun, the star of the film, with whom he made The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, a very funny comedy. And I Saw the Devil in 2010.
Yeah.
So would you like to do us the honor and summarize the film for us?
So, in A Bittersweet Life, Lee Byung-hun plays Sun Woo, a loyal enforcer to a gang boss named Mr. Kang. His gang is facing trouble from a rival mobster's lot, and a rival mobster's named Bake, and he's trying to muscle in on their business. Kang has other things on his mind, such as the possibility that his young girlfriend, Hee-soo, is cheating on him, and so Kang asks Sun Woo to watch over her, with the order to deal with her if she is straying. Sun Woo does find evidence of her betrayal, but defies his boss and lets her live. This defiance places him on the hit list of his boss, and also Bake, the rival gangster, and Sun Woo finds himself alone in the world.
All right, thank you for that. So why don't you tell us, when did you first see the film and what did you think of it?
I first saw it around 2010. It was the Tartan release. It's going to be a familiar DVD label I'm going to bring up in every podcast. That'll show how important they are in shaping sort of Western Asian film fans' watch lists. But prior to that, I'd watched The Quiet Family, which I imported from Korea when I was in high school. And I'd watched A Tale of Two Sisters, another Tartan release, and The Good and Bad and Weird in cinemas. And I think I came to A Bittersweet Life maybe last but one out of all of those. And I reviewed it for my blog, where I went into detail about how I was impressed by the aesthetics and how the film mirrored Le Samurai and Drive in having a macho guy who exists in a nihilistic criminal underworld. Oh, he doesn't really have much of a character. The character is all explained through his actions and through his surroundings, really. And I really enjoyed the action scenes. And from that time, I have this memory of the film, of it all being a fantasy, which is why I'm glad you brought it up in the notes, because it's very much an existential drama about this guy who's like questioning his place in the world. He's sick of his life as a gangster. And there's like, at the time, I felt like there was a twist which took it from the realm of realism to fantasy. But we'll talk about that later. That twist has played on my mind ever since. So even I rewatched the film for the first time in about nearly a decade for this podcast, and I was quite surprised when reading interviews that maybe this twist was all in my head.
Yeah, I agree, and I think so. I'll reserve my comments for later, but I don't think the twist, that interpretation, was the intended interpretation, but I prefer it as an interpretation. Anyway, so I think my circumstances are similar to yours on how I watched the film for the first time. I think it started with me seeking out, after I had become a little familiar with South Korean cinema, I started seeking out more South Korean films. And I ran into A Tale of Two Sisters first, and I will just contradict myself because I've mentioned just a few minutes ago and in previous episodes that I'm not a fan of horror films. However, this was not the case. This was not always the case. There was a time, especially a portion of my high school, that I actually was a big fan of horror films. And sort of that towards the end of high school, that's when I started to move away from them. But I saw, this was at a time when I was a fan, and I saw A Tale of Two Sisters, and I really enjoyed it. So I tried to seek out more films from this filmmaker, and I was really impressed. It was not entirely new to South Korean cinema at this point. I was familiar with other filmmakers such as Park Chan-wook and Bong Joon-ho, and even Lee Chang-dong. And sort of Kim Jee-woon was maybe one of the later South Korean directors that I started exploring their filmographies. And I have to say, maybe he's the more commercial of the big South Korean names. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say his films much more successful in balancing the artistic and the commercial.
I think so. But yeah, and I really enjoyed it. At first I saw it as an action film with that final twist at the end, that was this all a dream or not. And I've seen this film multiple times since then. Maybe I've seen it at least once every year, if not more. Whenever my friends ask me, can you recommend me Korean films? This is one of the first 10 or maybe even first 5 that I come up with. I think it's really good for the reasons that you mentioned. It's a well-balanced film that explores some very complex themes in the life of protagonists without falling into the trap of telling us their whole backstory. It's really concise, and if you know anything about me, you know that I really appreciate conciseness. Concision? Is it concision or conciseness? What's the
conciseness?
Conciseness. Okay. Well, either way, and I think it does that very well. Much like Le Samurai that you mentioned, the protagonist here is very much the same. Not only influenced by The Samurai, but also by I got a very prominent spaghetti western vibe, like similar to The Men with No Name in the Sergio Leone films, in the protagonist. But moving on away from our initial opinions, this film wears its influences on its sleeve. And particularly, I think it's French New Wave influence, particularly from Jean-Pierre Melville. Although you could argue that Melville was not, or Melville, however you pronounce it, was not part of the French New Wave. He was sort of kind of separate from it. And also a lot of spaghetti western influences. But the Melville influences are really obvious in the quotes. In the film begins and ends with a Buddhist quote or a Buddhist parable, and a couple of Melville films do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, Le Samurai begins with a quote from the Way of Bushido, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a fake one. It's not a real one.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just something that Melville made up. And I'm not sure if and he admitted to making up. It's not like he was trying to trick anyone. He just made up something that sounded Bushido-y or Buddhist-y. And I think, and he did the same thing in the Cercle Rouge, the Red Circle, the film that he made, I think, after The Samurai.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if Kim Jee-woon did the same thing, or if the parables that he used are authentic. I read that they are, but I have not been able to find the source.
Okay. Directors making up quotes is can be comedy gold sometimes. If you watch the film Wild Beasts, it starts with a nonsensical quote, and it's laugh out loud funny. But to go back to A Bittersweet Life, the quote actually, the quotes that bookend the film actually add to the sense that it's a twist. There's a twist in the telling of the story.
Okay, so let's talk about the twist. You gave a summary of the film, and it ends in a bloodbath, and then he dies. But then we flash back into him drinking coffee in front of a glass mirror, in front of like a glass that contains his reflection, and he starts shadow boxing and he seems happy, and that's how the film ends.
Yeah,
and you can interpret that in two ways. Either that's what he's thinking, like right before his death, he's like recollecting to a time when he was happy, or the whole adventure that he went through was him daydreaming, and now we're back to reality where he imagines like that whole life. and is now back to reality, and he imagines himself. As you mentioned earlier, that like you thought in his real life, well, he was also a gangster. I have a slightly different fan theory. I don't think he has no involvement with the underworld whatsoever. I think he's just a boring hotel manager, and he's imagining an exciting life for him. And he's like shadow boxing, and he imagining it in sort of a more noble way of a more noble and adventurous life for himself.
That sounds good to me. Actually, the way I saw it was throughout the film, well, at the beginning of the film, he's nothing more than an extension of his boss's will. And his behavior as a gangster defines everything about him. And he's like, the whole movie is just him daydreaming. What happens if he goes beyond the boundaries? What happens if he rises above his station and actually falls in love with a girl, defies his boss, and like bad things happen? And it's a fantasy that he's dreaming up. So the film slips from realism to cartoonish violence. Like, all the violence is like over the top throughout the film, but it gets crazier and crazier and more implausible, to the point where he's getting stabbed in the kidneys, he's getting shot in the head, and he's still able to fight. That's what adds to the fantasy feeling. Like, it becomes so implausible.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think that's the official interpretation, and I think even the director has said at some interview that, if I'm remembering correctly, that it is not. But I agree with you entirely that a lot of the evidence points out that it is, especially in how cartoony not cartoony. I don't like that word very much, but maybe unrealistic.
Yeah, hyper-violent, lurid,
implausible. Yes, it gets, because like you're right. He's buried alive. He's tortured, he's stabbed, he's shot in the head. Of course, from that, the way the camera rotated the angle, it's hard to tell whether the bullet actually went inside his head or it just scraped him. Like, I've seen that scene so many times, and it's always hard to tell because the camera, like, it's a weird angle, and then the camera rotates, and then you see the villains with a gun, and he also moves at the same time. He moves his head around, so it's really hard to tell from what angle the bullet came and whether it just scraped the side of his head or if it actually hit him in the head.
There's definitely viscera flying out. Definitely brain cells.
Yeah, but all of that indicates that this is not real. However, I think whether or not we go with your interpretation of he was an extension of it, he was already a gangster and an extension of himself, and he's trying to fantasize what it would be like if he deviated from that, or whether we go for my interpretation that I think that he was just a lowly hotel manager and he's imagining a more adventurous life for himself, I still can ask the same question as to why do you think he's happy at the end, or why do you think this life that he's imagining for himself is the happy life or the sweet life, as is the Korean title of the film. Because in English it's translated as the Bittersweet Life, but in Korean it's just the sweet life. And why is that the sweet life for him, in him dying violently at the hands of gangsters?
Is it him dying violently? Like, is it a sense of satisfaction that he's able to express his inner anger and rage and take it out on people around him? If I like your interpretation that he's a hotel clerk, so obviously as a lowly hotel clerk, he's going to be taking orders from these gangsters and he might be pushed around. And if he imagines himself as part of their world, being equal and even better to them, being a Terminator in a sense, there's real pleasure on his face at the end as he imagines taking all of his enemies out.
Yeah, but why not get away with a girl at the end? Why imagine himself dying? It's a heroic death, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. But it seems, I find that very fascinating. It's not a criticism. I really like the fact that if we did take this interpretation, his sweet life is a version where he dies heroically instead of killing all the bad guys and getting away with a girl.
No, I think it's just him fantasizing. It's like, I'm going back to my real life now, and he's happy. Like, in my interpretation, he's a gangster and he finds some satisfaction in all of the aesthetics and all of the lifestyle that he lives. In terms of your interpretation, going out with a bang like when you're in a job, when you're in the service industry, when a customer-facing job, sometimes you're so full of rage that you want to take it out on others, and you go out with a bang.
Yeah, but so what you said, I don't his final smile at the end, I don't interpret it as him being happy with his current life, because he's still shadow boxing, and you can sort of, to me, he's still picturing that life. He's still fantasizing while he's doing that, and he's smiling while doing it. So to me, his smile is about his fantasy, not his reality that he's just come back to. And that's why the reason I'm insisting on this point is because I distinctly remember when I was in high school, and we did, I think some teacher had us do this exercise, this life building, or like finding your purpose in life exercise, or whatever it was, that write your own obituary type of exercise. I don't know if you've ever encountered something like that.
No.
It's something that counselors do very commonly, or philosophers sometimes you see it. And it was actually a part of a philosophy course that we did. But it was something along the lines of write one obituary as for your like worst case scenario of how your life turned out. Like imagine your life being a complete failure and write that obituary. And then write a second obituary with the best possible case scenario, like you've achieved all your goals, and like your highest possible dreams, your whatever you want to be, and that's your second obituary. And then third, write a realistic obituary of what you think your life could turn out if you applied yourself. I don't know what's that exercise supposed to achieve, but it's an exercise. And I distinctly remember that in my best case scenario obituary, I die young. I die young after having achieving incredible things. And I was the only one in class that did that. Everybody died old and rich, and I died young and having cured cancer or something like that. I don't remember exactly what my heroic act was.
It's like James Dean, live fast and die young.
Exactly, yeah. And so that's why this choice fascinates me, if indeed we take this interpretation of him, his fantasy, his happy place is him dying a heroic death for love and glory at a young age after having taken down an entire crime organization. And he's also like something else. The person that he's taken that finally kills him, and he's buried alive, he's tortured, he's stabbed, he's shot in the head, and he doesn't die. And the only person that kills him is the only person that he legitimately committed an injustice to. Like the only person who arguably did not deserve to die was the arms dealer who he killed to get his weapons, and then that's whose brother ends up killing him. And that's sort of a poetic justice in a sort of way that he's essentially fantasizing himself as a romantic ideal in a 19th century romantic adventure novel. Sorry, I kind of rambled there for a bit, but that's kind of how I see this.
I like that interpretation.
Anyway, so we did touch on the action temporarily, and we did kind of mention its over-the-topness, its implausibility. But outside that interpretation, what did you think of how the action was realized, the stunts and not special effects, because this movie doesn't really have. I think it's all stunts. There's no CGI in here, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought they were spectacular. I think Kim Jee-woon's camera work was really fluid and flowing, and I like that he would go for overhead shots, and were there like shoulder-mounted cameras for when Sung-woo's jumping through windows and fires. I found it really kinetic. So all his character, if we're imagining that it's a fantasy, or even if he's just an extension of his job, he's very efficient, he's very quick, and there's such an athleticism to Lee Byung-hun, and that extends to his character.
Yeah, and I liked also, except for the final gunfight, I like how brief the bursts of violence are. There's not that many extended fight scenes. There's one fight scene, then there's quiet in its story, and then there's another burst of violence, and there's again, him doing other stuff, and then he finally gets to the final fight scene. And I liked that approach. that the director took. And speaking of the character, I also agree with what you mentioned. Well, we already mentioned this, I guess, but how blank his character is in this film.
Yeah, it's very cold exterior. It's very efficient. And again, if he's just an extension of his job, that's what you want. And it isn't until he meets the girl that it actually breaks.
Yes, and I like how that is underscored by looking by the set design in his apartment. When you finally get to the apartment for the first time and the second time, it's sort of completely
Blank.
gray and blank, and they're devoid of any personal touches. He doesn't read books when he goes to sleep. He doesn't watch TV. He doesn't do anything. He just goes, maybe drinks a beer, and then just crashes on his couch. He doesn't even have a bed.
Yeah, he does have a costume change, but he prefers to be in his suit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his apartment is just so impersonal.
He's a blank slate on which the world of gangsters has written itself upon him. And the moment he shows any individuality, then he gets punished for it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's precisely, I think, what his character arc is him getting a personality and getting some individualism and being punished for it.
Yeah, and it's just to go back to Jean-Pierre Melville, the opening of Le Samurai is that blank apartment that Alain Delon is in. So there's echoes to that.
Absolutely. And going back to the influence a little bit, it's something that always rubs me the wrong way, is that a lot of times in reviews, Kim Jee-woon is accused of being too heavily influenced by other filmmakers. Like in this case, we mentioned spaghetti westerns, specifically Sergio Leone and Jean-Pierre Melville. And I've linked to this interview where he mentions he's sort of uses Tarantino and as an example of, well, people don't seem to complain that Tarantino does that. I don't understand why people are complaining that I do that. And I agree completely. In fact, I would say Kim Jee-woon is far better than Tarantino in this regard. I'll come out and say it. I'm not a fan of Tarantino. I think he plagiarizes half of his films. And whereas Kim Jee-woon doesn't, I think he just very artistically borrows in style from his influences, but it's still very much his own vision. Whereas I don't think Tarantino has a vision. I think he has an amalgamation that can resemble a vision, but not a personal vision.
I felt like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the closest we've gotten to an original vision from Tarantino.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, like Kill Bill is a retread of, say, Lady Snowblood, for example.
Yes, and I think it's more of a memories. It's Tarantino trying to recreate his memories through a nostalgic lens than a vision. But that's in itself is somewhat of a vision. But anyway, I apologize because I don't want to be known as the guy who complains about filmmakers. But it's just something that always rubs me the wrong way, because I don't think it's a fair criticism against Kim Jee-woon's filmography, because I do agree that he's heavily influenced and he wears his influence on the sleeve, but he very much filters them through his own lenses and doesn't directly take from them.
Yeah, do you think it's like part of a general dismissiveness of Asian cinema, perhaps?
I don't think that's the case. I think it's something to what I mentioned earlier, to the fact that his films are more commercial and more conventionally entertaining. And I think it's just in general, critics have a tendency to dismiss that. Critics have a tendency to gravitate or take more seriously films that do look like art films and do have that unusual element to them that kind of separates them away from conventional entertainment. Whereas Kim Jee-woon does not belong to that category. His films they have a lot of artistic value, but they're also a lot of fun.
Just an hour ago, I was looking, over an hour ago now, I was watching Jean-Pierre Melville interviews, and at one point he says, one of the purposes of film is to be a commercial product. And I think Kim Jee-woon nails like the sweet spot between commercial and artistic, because he takes a very generic story and derivative characters in this film, and he overlays a really interesting existential drama with these fantastic aesthetics.
Absolutely, and I think it speaks to follow up on what you said. The story is bare bones. It's really bare bones, and I think it's an attestation to his skill as both a writer and a director that he's able to take such a simple story. Because if like it showed in your summary of the plot, and if you just read an outline, it's an extremely simple story, but just the details that he imbues into them, into his characters, especially the main character, and especially the way he shows it, makes it so much, gives it so many additional layers to it, like the existential question of who he is as a person and what is it that defines him, and you can even go a step further and say that in both halves of the film, what defines him is other people, just in different ways. In the first half, it's his job and his boss specifically that defines who he is, and the second half is his love or hiso that defines him, that defines his actions.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think we should also single out Lee Byung-hun for praise, because he takes this blank character and he gives him so much emotion. And oftentimes there are like mid-shots or close-ups of him just on his face, and his body language is really, at first it's blank, then it becomes really tight with aggression as he's defied by others, and he refuses to give in. And then it all bursts out in that final speech with his boss, where he's like, "I've been your loyal dog for so many years. Why did you treat me this way?"
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting deviation from his influence, which is, like you said, Alain Delon. And one key fundamental difference between French cinema and Korean cinema is that the latter is a lot more melodramatic. And that shows, not that this film is extremely melodramatic, I think it just has the right amount of it, but it's definitely more than its French equivalent, and that shows both in Lee Byung-hun's performance and in the story and the direction of the film.
And it matches the tenor of the violence going on around him.
Absolutely. And also, the story of love, too. I mean, you have to have some melodrama for, the motivation of the character.
And that's really subtly done. It's him falling in love. It's like intercutting shots of the girl as he gets to know her. Shots of her legs, her face, and her arms. Really subtly done. And then him observing her with smiles blossoming on his face.
Yeah, to digress just a little bit, so this was my first, this was my second time that I'd seen a Lee Byung-hun performance, because I had seen Joint Security Area before this, the Park Chan-wook film.
I've got that on DVD, but I haven't watched it yet.
I recommend it. It's very good. But the second performance of Lee Byung-hun, the performance of Lee Byung-hun that I saw after this was his role in the American G.I. Joe movie.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's terrible. It's a terrible film, but he's not bad in it. He plays, I think, kind of a ninja character.
Yeah.
Like a generic Asian ninja character. It's a terrible film. 2008 or 2009.
I remember he was in, was it Red 2?
What do you mean Red 2?
Was that the Bruce Willis film about retired spies?
Oh, it's possible. He's maybe one of the few South Korean actors who successfully transitioned into Hollywood, and has made quite a few Hollywood films, but I think the G.I. Joe is the only one that I've seen. And I mentioned it because that kind of put me off him for a while, and I avoided him for a few months after that because I was so disappointed by the G.I. Joe film. But he's a great actor when he's given good material.
Absolutely. The good and the bad, the weird, he's really camping it up in there, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, that film is Kim Jee-woon going out and saying, I just want to make a wall-to-wall action film.
Oh, spaghetti western.
It's essentially a spaghetti western film. And I really enjoy that film, but I don't think it's as meaningful as The Bittersweet Life.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, how do you feel about, say, I Saw the Devil?
So that's a film that I quite enjoy, but I have, to rekindle a familiar thing, I have felt it's gotten maybe a bit too much praise in the West.
Okay.
I was excited to see that film because it was the return of Choi Min-sik from his hiatus. He took a hiatus in 2006 and didn't make any films, and that was his first film after his hiatus.
And he'd previously worked with Kim Jee-woon on The Quiet Family.
Oh yeah, yes. So that was the return. It's a great film, don't get me wrong. I've seen many lists where they put that as Kim Jee-woon's top film, and as maybe one of the best South Korean films. I don't think so. I think it's a great film. It's a very good South Korean film, but it's nowhere near Kim Jee-woon's best film and nowhere near one of the best South Korean films. That's my only gripe of it. Kind of like I mentioned with Battle Royale. I think it's a masterpiece, and but I always take objection to people putting things in the wrong perspective.
Yeah, it overshadows the rest of the work.
Yeah, or to put it more to be more honest about it, ranking films in a way that I don't agree with, because I mean that's what it's all about after all when it comes to it. But yeah, that's my only problem. But I do think that the dynamic between Choi Min-sik and Lee Byung-hun in the, what's the name again?
I Saw the Devil.
I Saw the Devil. Thank you. Yes, the dynamic, the sort of the cat and mouse game between the two is fantastic. The way the both the script and the direction achieves that, and their acting, of course.
Yeah, very, very brutal film. So if you see it, you've got our parental advisory, I guess.
Oh yes, absolutely. What did you think of it?
Well, I reviewed it in 2013. I actually borrowed it from my local library, and I found it really, really violent and unpredictable, and the constant shocks were actually quite enjoyable. And Choi Min-sik's performance of a evil monster was like really convincing, and again, it was enjoyable, and it was scary at so many points, and I felt like the violence was oppressive but not too overwhelming.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think the film maybe over-relied on the shock factor a little bit too heavily.
It lingers a little too much on the violence.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know, it's also part, this comes down to personal preference. I don't find the motivation of Lee Byung-hun's character in that film very compelling. Like the I need to take revenge because you killed my wife plot has been so overdone, especially in the West. That I'm personally tired of it, but again, that I shouldn't hold that against the movie because it's a perfectly acceptable plot element. It's just it's not compelling for me personally that much.
Could it just be a case of Kim Jee-woon cycling through the different genres and saying, I'm going to take this cliche, and then shoot it on a maximum scale?
I absolutely agree. And I think that's what he does with his old, I think maybe his first film, The Quiet Family, which is, I don't think it's his best film, but it is my personal favorite of his.
It's closer to reality, and the character dynamics are really delicious.
Yeah, but I do think that maybe his most original film, anything that he's done after that is sort of a response or his interpretation of some other genre. From The Foul King to A Tale of Two Sisters to A Bittersweet Life to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. Why I keep forgetting the name of this?
Last Stand?
The Last Stand, of course. But no, the one that we were just talking about.
Bittersweet Life? I Saw the Devil.
I Saw the Devil. I don't know why I keep blanking out on the name. Yeah, that one. They're all kind of capitalizing on a very specific genre and specifically the tropes of the genre. So that's how he's built his career around to. I've seen all of his films. The only film that I didn't see is, I think, his latest one. I have not got a chance, which I also think stars Song Kang-ho.
Yeah, Jin-ro, the Wolf Brigade adaptation, right? It was on Netflix.
Oh no, I've seen that one. The one that he did before that. Sorry. Like it was a period spy film.
Oh, Age of Shadows.
Age of Shadows. I think that's the only one that I haven't seen.
It was on the BBC, but I missed it.
Yeah, and I've heard he was, like most of his film, he was commercially successful and critically well received. Maybe not as good as the other ones. I think for the Western viewers, he had the misfortune of coming out at the same time as Park Chan-wook's The Handmaid, which got all the press.
Okay.
So I'd like to, and we can talk about whatever, but I would also like to go back to my mention of melodrama. It's a fairly prominent feature in South Korean cinema. You can't have South Korean films without a little bit of melodrama in it. But one thing that I think is adjacent to melodrama is fairy tales, and I do think this film has also a very fairy tale like structure, which is maybe related to the interpretation of it being a fantasy. What do you think?
In terms of fairy tale structure, could you define?
part of it's the blankness of the character. In fairy tales, you rarely get exposition of what it is. It's just the Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. You don't need an exposition to know that the Red Riding Hood, what her motivations are, and what the Big Bad Wolf and what his motivations are. So that's the first thing. It's sort of like the tone of the film and the tone of the characterization, but also the music has a lot of waltzes, part of the soundtrack. And I associate that with fairy tales for whatever reason. Maybe because just they're part of the romantic period.
The time period, yeah. Yeah, actually, it's quite interesting. On the Tartan release, they've got DVD extras, and one of the extras is cast and crew questioning each other, and the sound design crew asked the producer why they took out narration. So for all the pieces with waltzes, all the musical pieces, they actually had narration from the main character, and the producer felt that it was better to take them out just have the music for the atmosphere.
Oh, I am so glad of that decision.
Yeah, you don't need to over-explain anything. You just let the aesthetics, the mise en scène speak, and the actions of the actor.
And I had not heard of that, so I'm very glad you mentioned it, but I had read that the original opening and ending of the film also contained narration instead of the Buddhist parables that we get in the final version. So that was another great decision that they made, or another great reason to remove the narration from the film.
It is like having that ambiguity is the hook for the film. Otherwise, it would just be entirely generic.
Part of it is also related to, you know, the like I mentioned, the fantasy interpretation of the film, and, you know, him perceiving a different life as a fairy tale. And that's why, you know, fairy tales are happy, and that's why he's happy at the end, even though he's picturing himself die, if you subscribe to that interpretation. There are some like nice detail that the director adds to sort of speaking again to how great this film is about conveying character with very little, with, you know, like you said, just facial expressions, body languages, but also little things that happen. For instance, we did mention his apartment being a very good representation of his personality. Another little thing that struck me is when they have a fight in Hee-soo's room, when what's the name of Lee Byung-hun's character in the film?
Sun-woo.
Sun-woo, thank you. When he catches them with her boyfriend that she's cheating on his boss, in their fight, they break the lamp that Lee Byung-hun just
delivered,
brought her. It's delivered as the boss's gift. So I thought that was a very, very nice piece, very nice metaphor of a relationship that is already broken.
And he replaces that lamp with the red one, which is like the closest he gets to a declaration of love.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And speaking of which, I also appreciate the fact that their relationship never goes anywhere. It never consummates.
I think that like the world that he inhabits, how violent it is, contrasts with the world she inhabits and the freedom. And how would you combine the two together?
Yeah, and I also think it's an indication from more story-wise, it's an indication of how unstable his previous life is, and is maybe another statement of her happiness, because I think we can all agree that Sun-woo thought he was leading if not a happy, a content life.
he never questioned himself.
And exactly, precisely. And I think just how little it took to expose the fragility of that contentment or that stability that he never questioned or that he thought he had.
And he struggles to articulate it even at the end when he has the showdown with his boss. He's asking, why? Why me?
Yeah, precisely. And I think now that you mentioned it, if we, again, circling back to this fantasy thing, I think that could be a third interpretation that we didn't mention. Maybe his moment in the mirror, or not a mirror, what's that?
It's the window where he's shadowboxing.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever that is. Maybe that is, maybe before that he took the gift, his boss's gift, to Hee-so. He watched her from a distance and nothing happened. None of that thing with her cheating happened. It was just a very normal woman who, was dating his boss. And he goes back to the hotel and he can't understand his feelings for her. So that story that he goes through, that he crafts through in his head of the whole thing going wrong is just the only way he knows how to understand his sudden feelings for Hee-so. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah, it's a melodramatic interpretation of the world, of the violent world he lives in, and maybe he's influenced by other Korean movies.
Absolutely. Another detail that I noticed is the bar is called La Dolce Vita.
Yeah, and the name of the bar is between Kang and Sun-woo when they have their showdown.
Yeah, which is also the title of the film. And I don't know if it's a reference to the Italian film La Dolce Vita directed by Fellini. I haven't seen it. I don't know if you have.
No, I haven't seen it either.
I've seen a bunch of other Fellini films, but that one not, sadly.
Okay.
Not. So I would like to, I don't know, I'd like to, I considered it, but I just didn't have the time. I would like to maybe see if there is any obvious, or if it's just the irony of the title being The Sweet Life when in the middle of a massacre.
Yeah, we'd have to watch La Dolce Vita to find out. But on the surface level, it's a very ironic title. Everything goes wrong for the character, so it's far from a sweet life.
Unless you subscribe to the interpretation that that's the life that he wants, a life where he can overcome maybe the greatest challenge, or an impossible challenge, in fact.
Yeah, or maybe he's content in the life of being a servile gangster, and he likes the power and the accoutrements that come with it.
All right, we should mention, because we've been going through all the elements. We did already mention how fantastic the music is, but I believe it does mention a separate shout out that it is a fantastic soundtrack. The thing that I always remember is the waltzes, but all across the board, this film has a fantastic score.
It's like a spaghetti western theme when he goes to meet the gunrunners, right?
Yes, that's it. Yes. So that's I think mainly what the spaghetti western, what reminds me of the film as a spaghetti western. That is, and some of the plot elements like going to an arms dealer. That's a very common trope of spaghetti western. Like some family member seeking revenge, like the arms dealer's brother going out and like a silent killer. That's another spaghetti western trope. But the one that stands out immediately is the music in some of those scenes.
I'd also like to highlight the black comedy with the gunrunners, like when he's...
What scene are you referring to?
Trying to assemble the gun.
Oh, yeah.
With a broken hand. And it starts off innocuous enough, but there's some tension because you're waiting for the moment his lie about being an errand boy sent to get guns is going to be rumbled. And you've seen his hand get crushed by the wrench. And it starts off innocuous enough. It's a game where they're assembling the gun, and then it turns into a very real and horrible gunfight. And I love the moment when the old lady, one of the gun runners escapes and flees, and an old lady intervenes. I won't say how, but she gives like a nice little character detail. It's like, oh, you're drunk and shooting guns again, are you?
Yeah, and you mentioned his hand being hit by a wrench. I mean, that torture scene is brutal. But even there, he inserts comedy, like when he first wakes up and he's hanging by a rope, and then there's an old lady cleaning the blood, mopping the blood under him. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and he ties her to a chair later on, doesn't he?
Yes, he ties her husband.
Is it? It's the one of the gangsters, the torturer. He ties up.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I forget what happened. What does he? Does he do anything to his wife?
I think the wife is just sat down.
Okay, yeah, maybe she's tied too.
Yeah.
There's yeah, I mean the mise en scène and the music are great. Like there's one scene in the end where again a waltz plays, and where he's finally going to the hotel where he's on his way to the boss, and he's walking through a like a strangely lit hallway where there's lights on the walls, and he's like and shoots the one of the bodyguards in the chest, and blood splutters behind him.
It's like those scenes. Nobody reacts to getting shot. How I imagine would be in a realistic manner.
Yeah, but that is like a dance almost. The way that scene, yeah, it's time precisely that one, and also when he's tortured, there's a moment between the torture where the waltz plays and he's tied up and they're waiting, I think, and the camera goes through all the people that are around there. First of all, that's a great way. That's a great way to just show the geometry of the place, because that's going to pay off later when he escapes. But it's so beautifully shown, and so the camera moves so beautifully that it does seem like a dance. And the same thing happens on that scene where he's just walking through the hallway and then shoots the two people.
I agree. And also shout out to the guys who are digging the second grave even deeper. And the hilarious line when Sun Woo escapes.
Yeah. Well, judging from the grave, they hadn't done very far, so I guess it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Because it still looked pretty shallow from that angle.
You could still see the heads.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about the film?
Yeah, it could. Okay, we'll carry on.
All right. I mean, what I was going to move on next to is the reception of the film. The film was very well received, both in South Korea and internationally. It showed, I don't know if this was the premiere or if it was after it premiered, but it showed Out of Competition.
It was at 1 o'clock in Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, and it received praise there.
Yeah.
And it was nominated for several awards in Korea, although not many international awards, sadly. It was nominated for a bunch of awards at the Grand Bell Awards, which I think is the equivalent of Oscars. Although Korea has a bunch of important awards, the Blue Dragon Awards and the Grand Bell Awards. And I think one of them is like the Oscars and one of them is like the Golden Globes. I'm not sure which one is which, but it got a bunch of awards there. It got only nominations, very few wins. One win was, let me see who this actor is the actor who played one of the, not the main villain, not the main boss, but the younger boss who had like that cut in his...
Oh, Baek. The son.
Baek, yeah. So Hwang Jung-min, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He received a Best Actor win, but everything else was nominated. So he was nominated for Best Director, Best Film, Best Actor. What else? Best Screenplay. Actually, no, it did not get Best Screenplay. Never mind. But I forgot to make a list. But I'm just looking at the website. But it did get a bunch of nominations. So this was definitely a well-received film at the time.
Yeah, I checked what other South Korean films were released in 2005, and Duelist and Sympathy for Lady Vengeance were two standout titles.
That's probably the most popular one. Let me think. Any other South Korean films that I would know? Oh, Crying Fist. I've seen that one. That's another one that stars Choi Min-sik. It's a boxing film. It's a pretty good one. Nothing too memorable. But I don't think I've seen any. I'm looking at the award list. I don't think I've seen any of these other films. Yeah, I think that's it. So it was probably not a very busy year for South. Oh, I think maybe Kim Ki-duk did a film that year. I think Samaritan Girl was released.
Okay.
Yeah, that might have been 2004. Let me double check. Because he is very prolific. So, oh no, yeah, that was 2004. Both 3 Iron and Samaritan Girl was 2004. He did a film in 2005, but I have not seen it.
A funny comment that came out of the Tartan Asia Extreme extras, and I'll look on YouTube to see if I can find them, but because there's some great content on there. But a funny comment. Kim Jee-woon was asked during a press conference how he would describe the film, and he said or he would naturally call it a cross between a French film called Melville and Kill Bill. But then he admitted it was bad marketing because nobody in Korea knew about the film Melville and Kill Bill had flopped. So he would be better off describing it as a mix between The Terminator and Die Hard.
No, that's fine. I can't imagine it as anything to do with a Terminator or Die Hard, but that's a funny comment.
Yeah, it's like the final scene in the hotel is definitely has those Kill Bill vibes. But
Yes.
Sun-woo also has the Terminator vibes because he's walking through a location just blowing people away.
Yes. Let me read a little bit the final response to one of the interviews, and I'm going to link this to the website, of course. But the interviewer asked, what about the very final shot of the film? And he says, Lee Byung-hoon says, this is a key sequence expressing the essence of the character. It is an effective manner of projecting the character's inner self to the exterior. Sun-woo is a character whose ideas of himself is entirely determined by the ideas others have for him, and we talked about this. He thinks of himself only as reflected in other people's view of him, and he believes to be like that. He is a character who has never questioned himself before. In the last scene, when Sun-woo boxes against his reflection, I want to convey the idea that in the battle against himself, he lost. I'm not sure exactly about that part, but I suppose it does make sense. And then lastly, he says, if you look carefully at the ending, you'll notice that his reflection disappears. Disappears first, leaving only the glass and the outside panorama before the credits.
Oh,
Yeah, and the idea you did mention the existentialist themes and the idea of self-perception as another in the eyes of others is a very existential thing. It's like 13 chapters in Sartre's book. It's all he talks about. So yeah, it's the self as a subject and the self as an object, which is what will be equivalent to seeing yourself through other people's eyes, is a very much at the forefront of this film. And we did talk about it, not in so many words, but it is. I do agree with you that it is central to the film, and it's fantastic how he manages to accomplish that with, such a bare bones story and so minimalistically.
yes, absolutely. And on a very basic level, like the battle you mentioned a battle against himself, and it's like he refuses.
Well, the director mentioned it. I just read it.
The director mentions the battle against himself, and he refuses to say I am sorry. And then the gang boss tells the story of another gangster who failed to admit he was wrong.
Yeah, that's a very jarring story. I mean, it happens a few scenes earlier, I think,
and a few scenes before that story. You hear how Sun-woo had, I believe I made the connection that he had dealt with the previous gangster who refused to admit he was wrong by getting rid of his hand.
Yes, that's such an easy thing to miss too, because it's so briefly mentioned.
I say this film's full of so many subtle ideas, and it's so brilliantly executed with that South Korean flair. So it elevates a generic story.
Yeah, and one thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have I don't have all the scenes picture in my head, but you rarely see the gangsters doing any explicit illegal activities in the film, right? For all you see them do is doing business. And of course, the fighting is normal, but that's a gray area because not all fighting is illegal, I guess. But they're just, if all you see them doing is doing business, negotiating deals and contracts, and you could see this as just them representing capitalism in a sense. I don't know if that's a stretch, but correct me. Is there any scene where it shows them like selling drugs or anything like that?
No, like the scenes that the gangsters are just hanging around, and if we take your interpretation that the Sun-woo is a lowly hotel clerk, for example, or manager, like that's the only side of the gangsters that he would actually see. He would not see the criminal enterprise.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's because I mean that criticism of capitalism would not be nothing new. The corporations suck the life out of their employers. That's a very common theme. So that I think that could be.
Yeah, and he's dedicated himself, and it's like, what have I got after all this?
Exactly, yeah. The 9-to-5 type of thing, the soul drenching.
I gave you my loyalty, I gave you my best years, and this is how you treat me.
Exactly. You could verbatim put that into a story about someone being betrayed by their job, and it would fit exactly the same thing. Of course, it wouldn't end in a shootout, but you never know.
I think a lot of people probably do imagine that on a bad day.
Oh, maybe that's what he's fantasizing is just another day at the office, and he's just damn if I could only take this one step further.
Yeah, if I was good with my fists, this is how I would sort it out.
Yeah, because that's another thing, because I don't know, I mean, of course it is possible, but I find it hard to believe that a gangster would feel the need to shadow box. That doesn't sound very gangstery to me.
I suppose that keys into, again, your interpretation that he aspires to this sort of macho image. But it could just be him having fun. He's just smiling. He's like, I'm still alive, and I exist in this world, but I'm alive.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think it's a great film, and I do think to dismiss it as a purely commercial, as a purely entertaining, as a film that is just entertaining, I think would be a mistake. I think there's a lot of layers that can be explored into this film, in addition to enjoying the hell out of it.
Yeah, we spent so long talking about the various ambiguities, and you were able to go into so much depth about how this might be a fairy tale or not. That depth, other people will be able to tap into it. So it's not just a generic action movie. It's one with so many themes that people can talk about for a long time.
Absolutely. All right. So unless you have anything to add, we can maybe give it a star score. And I would also like, if you want to, maybe where do you rank it in Kim Jee-woon's filmography?
So I would put A Tale of Two Sisters and A Quiet Family joint first. And Bittersweet Life second. Good, Bad and Weird third. And I Saw the Devil fourth. In terms of a star rating, I would give it a 4.5 or a 4.
I think in a fair world, I think I would give it a 4-star, just like you. But I think because we're talking about gateway films, I think this is a great film to get someone into Asian cinema. Because it's so accessible. You don't have to get any weird cultural I don't want to say weird, any foreign cultural references or something that you're not familiar with. It's a very straightforward action film that literally anybody from any part of the world can enjoy. And I think that makes a great gateway into at least South Korean cinema.
Yeah. Kim Jee-woon's, again, the philosophical side of things and the aesthetics, Kim Jee-woon's eye for aesthetics really lifted up. Absolutely.
And that's why I would give it a 5-star because of that. I think because I think it does that job very good. It deserves 4, but I give it a 5 because of that. As a rating, like you, I would put The Quiet Family first. I would put this second, A Bittersweet Life second. I would put maybe A Tale of Two Sisters and The Foul King joint third.
Mm-hmm.
Then The Foul King is a very funny film. It's a great comedy.
That's one I have not seen yet.
I strongly recommend it. It's so funny.
Okay.
So after that, I would put, I think just like you, I would put The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. And I Saw the Devil after that. And then I would put the Jinro dead last.
Okay. I haven't watched that one either. As a big fan of the original anime, I'm kind of wary.
It's a disappointment. I think I think I can say that safely. I know our tastes don't match up perfectly, but I think I can safely say you will be a disappointment. Not only disappointment compared to the original, but also I think just as a Kim Jee-woon film or as a science fiction film, there's just no angle that you can save this film. It's just a disappointment on all fronts. Okay. I've reviewed it for V Cinema if anybody is interested in checking it out.
I'll set my expectations. In fact, I won't set my expectations low. I'll just keep this one on the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, I still recommend watching it. It has some interesting visuals and action scenes. It's not irredeemable, but I just think it's not what I was expecting when I saw it. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And it's definitely a lot more melodramatic than the original. I think it's just by necessity, it ramps up the melodrama to 100.
I'm curious about it because I would like to review the two and compare and contrast.
there is an interesting part in it. I think my favorite part of that film is which I also think it's in the original, is the Red Riding Hood parable. There's a part where one character, and I think that's in the anime too, right?
I believe so.
Where they talk, yeah. And there's one character is telling another character, and I forget which to which, but it happens at some point in the middle of the film. The story of the Red Riding Hood, and that's beautifully done the way he does it. It's very nice with some sort of animation. That's very nicely done, and we did mention fairy tales, and there's another fairy tale in another Kim Jee-woon film. But other than that, I think the rest is very generic.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close it off, Jason? Sorry, I don't know why I said James.
That happens in my workplace sometimes.
It's happened in my head a few times, but I don't think I've ever said it out loud. But in my head, I always call you James, or half the time I call you James. I don't know why.
I think we could close it out for now.
Okay, so I'll post, as usual, all the relevant links and trailers in the website. I'll post a link to our Twitter feeds where you can follow us if you wish to. I don't have much to say on social media, but Jason is very active, so be sure to follow him there.
Okay.
And as always, this has been the Heroic Purgatory Asian Cinema Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.